Hello and welcome to another video. In this video, I would like to show you our PLC controller, the Datacake D Zero, and what makes it so special. So basically, it's a hardware using a cellular modem and an embedded SIM card. It comes with a worldwide cellular contract. The customer has to do anything because it's already registered. As soon as there is power on the D Zero, it begins to communicate with the Internet of Things and with our Datacake portal. We have analog inputs. These are 4x20 milliamp inputs for connecting industrial transmitters for pressure, temperature. We have PT100 for temperature sensors, 3 of them. We have 8 digital inputs up to 2 kilohertz edge counters, 2 digital outputs, which are solid state relays that can control relays, motors, switches, or whatever. We have RS485, but this is a custom feature to map Modbus RTU. And 24 volt input. On top we have antenna connector, reset button, and a USB interface for debugging or programming. One thing that is special about the D Zero is that you don't need to hook it up to a computer and program it like you program any other PLC controller. You simply hook up all your sensors, install them, apply power. It will begin to connect to the cellular network, and normally here's a sticker with a number. You simply put that number into your account, and then the D Zero is being registered and everything is online. So that means it's very easy, and from installing the sensor to your first dashboard or IoT application, it's just about half an hour or so. It just takes 30 minutes. So once the D Zero is online, all the magic happens inside our cloud. Here you can see one of the units that I have in my office. I have a small fridge here, and for demonstration I hooked up a PT100 sensor and a CO2 sensor to the fridge, and the CO2 sensor is just placed here in the office. So let me show you how easy it is to bring data into the cloud. As soon as you connected analog sensors or digital sensors, you go into the configuration, and here you find sections for those analog inputs, for the digital inputs, for the temperature inputs in the outputs. Some things like once configuration, additional database field for doing additional calculations, formulas, and so on. But let's go back to, in this case, the CO2 sensor. We go into the configuration of that port. It's the analog input number 1 here. And here we can give it a name. And if we go into the sensor tab, here you'll find the settings for the 4x20 milliamps, and you simply apply the range from the sensor to that 4x20. Just ignore that unit because it's a large list. We are working with the conversion library, but since this is CO2, it's ppm, we can apply a custom unit. We save it. You can apply float digits, how much float digits you want. Then we have the query interval, and here we say, okay, this is 5 minutes, so that means the D Zero will transmit the new values every 5 minutes. We can apply an hysteresis. This means that we can say the D Zero, like, give me sensor values every 5 minutes, but only if there's a change for at least like 10 ppm or so. This is important because that means it can help you save data. For example, if you say, like, if there's a change, I want a new value to be transmitted every minute, but only if it makes sense. So if there's at least a change for like 10 p.m. Or 10 ppm, that means that only if there's a change, data will be consumed or values will be transmitted. The next is the query delta. This, for example, is pretty cool because you can say you want an interval of like half an hour. But what happens if there's something in between that half an hour? We can set the query delta. That means, for example, we can set it to 20 ppm. So if there's a change in between those 5 minutes or half an hour of at least 20 ppm, this is being transmitted immediately. So this makes sure that there's no data loss or that you can save. You can tweak those settings a little bit, and this helps you save a lot of data. Query smoothing is something if your sensor tends to produce like some random values, you can filter them out or smooth them out. Once you're finished with that, you press save. The configuration is immediately being transmitted to the D Zero, and the D Zero applies this to all these inputs. You can do the configuration for every single input, like here for these PT100 inputs. You can apply some offsets, but also the interval and delta settings. Here we have set the delta to 1 degree Celsius. That means if I would now take the sensor out, put it in my hands, it will begin to transmit the data immediately, and not just, I do not have to wait like 5 minutes or so. Okay, so after we've done this, we could do this also for the digital inputs. We can set it to edge counter and apply a unit, like units per pulse and so on. We can set the edge mode, and we can also set debounce time for etching or for edge counters or for switches, for example. So when you're finished, all you need to do is press the edit mode in the dashboard builder. And here, for example, you can just simply drag and drop rows and values. In this value editor, you can choose whatever field you want, like the analog input or the CO2 sensor. We can place the second analog input or the PT100, like we have here in this one. So I'm going to delete this. This was just for showing. We can put graphs in here and add, for example, the CO2 sensor, apply a different color. We can say set time frames. We're using some kind of language for describing time areas, the resolution of data. And I will bring this back because otherwise the server will be a little bit high on load. We could press save. Let's go back from edit mode. And you've created your first dashboard. And here you can see, actually it's pretty funny. Here you can see, because I've set the resolution from 3 or for 24 hours back to like, what was that, 5 minutes? And here you can see the cooling and heating phases of the fridge. You can actually see the fridge working. Yeah, and this is a pretty easy way. You hook up sensors, you configure them using the web interface or those simple forms. You press save, everything is being transmitted to the D Zero. The D Zero will begin transmitting values to our cloud. You can create dashboards simply by dragging and dropping things or widgets onto the dashboard. You can extend that to whatever dashboard you want. And it just takes you like half an hour to get from sensor to cloud and to your first IoT application. But there's even more. As you might have seen already, here's a tab called Rules. And these rules is something that is very special. It's not rules that like if this then that happen in the cloud. These rules you find here in the Devices tab are rules which are being executed on the D Zero. That means in this example, I've set those two rules here before. We check the PT100 from that fridge, and if it is or if it falls below 7 degrees Celsius, disable digital output number 1, and if it is above 10 degrees Celsius, enable it. For example, to have a signal light or a warning light or whatever attached to the D Zero, and this makes sure these rules, since they are being executed on the D Zero, even if there is no network communication at all, these rules still work. This makes some kind of automation, and it makes it very easy to set up. We can go into editing. As you can see, these are just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, just less than 10 input things. You press save. Again, everything is being transmitted to the D Zero, and it's being run or executed on the D Zero. Last but not least, something about the structure of our Datacake cloud. And what makes it so special and so different from all the other clouds is that if you want to use the D Zero or the portal in your products and want to sell those products to your customers, then you might be interested in branding it or doing some white label stuff. This is all possible, but there's even more, which is called Workspaces. And those workspaces help you to create your own areas for your customers or even for your company. I'm just going to show you this very quickly. This is the Datacake demo workspace. This is a sub workspace of the Datacake workspace. There are some demo devices, and here you can apply or invite persons using email. You can set roles, you can manage your invites and so on, and here you can also apply or set members to your devices. You can search for devices like Datacake. Here you have those devices, and then you can change permissions or the workspaces, because you can create sub workspaces. In that sub workspaces, you can move your devices into that sub workspaces. You can then invite people into your sub workspaces, make them administrators. They can add devices and they can create sub workspaces, and it goes on and on and on and on. And this is something like a CRM system, a relationship management from your IoT for your IoT devices and all the customers, the clients, and so on. And this is something that makes it so special, because that was something that we weren't able to find on the market, because we were looking for something like that when we started the company Datacake, because we had some customers who demanded that. And this was some kind of start that we thought like, okay, let's make it on our own. So this is pretty cool, because everybody who wants to sell IoT products needs some kind of structure for it. Also, if you add devices and you add another D Zero, you simply put in the serial number, and you can copy config from an already configured D Zero. This is called machine profile. It's like a product, and you have all those devices, and there's an inheritance between this. And this is one of the things that make the Datacake cloud so unique. Okay, let's go back to the D Zero and the fridge, because there's one last thing I almost forgot to show you, and this is where everything comes together. And if you are interested in having, or if you have some custom logic that you want to build apps for, IoT apps, or that you want to model in the cloud, we have a new product called Cake Red. And Cake Red is a managed Node-RED service, and this is also because the domain is set to beta, and here it's set to app, because it's currently just available for the beta version. And it's a dedicated server running Node-RED, and how this looks is like this here. And this is pretty easy to build custom logic for all your D Zeros or different products here. And this really is a great add-on for the Datacake Cloud, because you can simply connect any service, you can export data, bring it to your ERP system, for example, or email reports or whatever. Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. Have a nice weekend.